Greetings. On behalf of the GPCAS-NCNW Incorporated, we welcome you to the 2021 inaugural installment of Black Meccas, Strengthening Our People. This exciting panel discussion, hosted by the Education Committee of the Greenville-Pitt County Area section of the National Council of Negro Women Incorporated, features professionals from around our state who will share their ideas on how to synthesize the very best of what we have within our community and beyond to create a Black Mecca conglomeration that produces and enhances the best possible outcomes for our people. We are excited to feature on this panel Reverend Dr. Jeffrey B. Robinson, pastor of Juniper Level Missionary Baptist Church in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Dean and Chief Academic Officer of the Public Safety Division for Wake Technical Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina. Dr. Lawrence Rouse, President of Pitt Community College in Greenville, North Carolina. Dr. Patti Sanders-Smith, District Administrator for Pitt County Schools in Greenville, North Carolina. And Dr. Kaye Thompson Rogers, Director of Health Services Careers at North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. We invite you to sit back, reflect, ingest, and consider the ways in which we can elevate our people ever the more. Welcome to Black Meccas. We begin this filming of our program, which is already in progress.
And social unrest. He collaborated with IAPS and the North Carolina Community College System Office to conduct Train the Trainer courses throughout the state of North Carolina for impartial policing and implicit biases to over 150 instructors. He has had an illustrious career in law enforcement. He is married to the former Renee Matthews. They have 3 children. All 3 children are now serving in the military. His motto is serve and make the world a better place. Tonight, I share with you Reverend Jeffrey Robinson as he continues to strengthen our people. Reverend Robinson.
Thank you so much, Sister Walls. Next, we will have Sister Cherie White to come forward with the next introduction.
Good evening again. I am introducing Dr. Lawrence L. Rouse. Dr. Lawrence L. Rouse currently serves as the 5th president of Pitt Community College located in Winterville, North Carolina. He formerly served as president of James Brunt Community College in Kenansville, North Carolina. He also served as Dean of Student Services for Johnston Community College in Smithfield, North Carolina, where he supervised several student support and development functions. Dr. Rouse was the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at Central Carolina Technical College in Sumter, South Carolina, and served in a number of other professional positions. He has over 38 years of higher education experience and leadership in community colleges. Prior to his career in higher education, Dr. Rouse served as Manpower Director and Social Services Coordinator for Wateree Community Action Agency in Sumter, Lee, Kershaw, and Clarendon counties of South Carolina. Dr. Rouse received his bachelor's degree from Voorhees College in Denmark, South Carolina, and his master's degree from the University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. After receiving his master's degree, he was selected as one of 4 South Carolinians to receive a Kellogg Acclaimed Fellowship to attend North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. As a graduate student, he also received a National Leadership and Institutional Effectiveness Fellowship at that time. At North Carolina State, Lawrence Rouse received his Doctor of Education degree in Adult and Community College Education. He is a member in several professional and civic organizations to include, but not limited to, the North Carolina Association of Community College Presidents. He was the former president. The Greenville Noon Rotary Club, the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, the Greenville Committee of 100, the United Way of Pitt County, the University of Mount Olive Board of Trustees, the North Carolina State University Envisioning Excellence Advisory Board, the Greenville, North Carolina Economic Alliance, and Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And currently he serves as the regional director. He has received numerous awards and citations to include the Heritage Award, North Carolina Community College System President of the Year, Phi Beta Sigma Brother of the Year, James T. Floyd Hall of Fame member, the I.E. Reddy Award for Distinguished North Carolina State University Alumnus, and the Don T. Harris Award for Outstanding Leadership in Workforce Development. Dr. Lawrence L. Rouse is a native of Sumter, South Carolina, where he was educated in the public schools and graduated from Sumter High School. He is the son of the late Roy and Maple Rouse and is married to the former Janie White. They are the proud parents of 3 adult children: Redrick, a Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army serving a tour of duty in Iraq; Lee, a nuclear engineer residing in Newport News, Virginia; and Whitney, an Assistant Director of Finance residing in Goldsboro, North Carolina. That is Dr. Lawrence L. Rouse.
Thank you so much, Sister White. Next, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Patti Sanders-Smith. And I'm delighted to introduce her, for she is someone who I've virtually known probably as long as I've known myself. Dr. Sanders-Smith is currently serving as District Administrator with Pitt County Schools. However, Dr. Sanders-Smith's service in the field of education extends far beyond how she is defined by her titles. She received a BS from her beloved Winston-Salem State University, a premier HBCU in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She then went on to obtain a master's in education, as well as a master's in education and supervision from East Carolina University. Always striving for greatness, a trait instilled in her, I'm quite sure, by her outstanding parents, who had special places in my heart as well, Frazier and Gladys Sanders, both lifelong educators. She ultimately returned to another beloved HBCU, Fayetteville State University, to obtain a doctorate in education. In addition to her stellar educational pursuits, Dr. Sanders-Smith could boast, though I know she's not a boaster, a stellar professional career. She retired after 34 years as a public school educator, in which she served in a diversity of capacities: teacher, assistant principal, education consultant with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, curriculum specialist, assistant superintendent, chief academic officer, and adjunct professor. Also, despite a very busy schedule, she is immersed in the community. She is a proud member of the Divine Nine as the president and charter member of the Pitt County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and has served in many other organizational leadership capacities, such as the president of the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Coalition of Pitt County, the treasurer of Delta Kappa Gamma Educational Sorority, the treasurer of Pitt County Chapter of Winston-Salem State University National Alumni Association, a member of the Pitt Community College Board of Trustees, and the past president of the Winston-Salem State University National Alumni Association. Last but absolutely not least, Dr. Sanders-Smith has expressed in the joy that resides in the extension and enlargement of family that her most coveted title, the one she loves being the most, is Proud Mimi, to two beautiful granddaughters and talented granddaughters, Morgan and Kendall Harvey. There is so much more I could say about Dr. Sanders-Smith, but her work, and I am sure you will hear tonight, that tonight will speak for itself. I will say on a personal note that I count her as part of my family, and I'm so glad to have her here as we talk about the Black family. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Patti Sanders-Smith. Next, we will have come forward Dr. Katrina Arnold, who will be introducing someone very special in her life as well.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I have the great pleasure of introducing an amazing woman this evening. She's actually at the very, very, very top of my list of amazing Black women. Dr. Kaye Thompson Rogers serves as the director of the Health Profession Career Center in the College of Health and Sciences at North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. She has been at NCCU since November 1996 and has held numerous positions from administrative assistant to assistant professor. Dr. Thompson Rogers is involved in numerous professional organizations. She is president of the Roxborough Person NCCU Alumni Chapter and past president of Sisters of the Academy Institute. She received her bachelor's degree in business administration from Averett University, a master's in public administration and education technology from North Carolina Central University, and a doctor of philosophy in urban higher education from Jackson State University. Dr. Thompson Rogers has published a number of articles and book chapters, including Still Lifting as We Climb, Sisters of the Academy on Being Queen Mothers, Black Women in Leadership, Their Historical and Contemporary Contributions, Historically Black Colleges and Universities Mentorship of Health Profession Students, a content analysis exploring the North Carolina Health Careers Access Program, and Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired, Challenges to the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and Why We Must Continue to March. Dr. Thompson Rogers' hobbies are reading and basket weaving. She really enjoys basket weaving. She is the mother of two children, yours truly, Dr. Katrina Arnold and Milton T. Rogers. It is my pleasure to introduce to you my mom, Dr. Mom, as me and my brother Milton call her, Dr. Kaye Thompson Rogers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arnold, for that wonderful introduction. And now we are at the meat of this program. We are very excited to be able to hear from these wonderful people that we've just presented to you. I call them our Black Mecca, and they're going to be doing some reflections on the importance of the work of Mecca institutions, not only in larger society, but also specifically as they relate to Black individuals and families. And so we begin with Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Robinson, who will address us regarding the church.
Well, good evening to everyone, to our host or hostess, and to all of you. If Dr. Everett Ward would be here tonight, he would say to this august body. And so we're so excited about being here. Thank you. I'm glad that you got me first. That shows that you love me, because with the panelists that are there, that are coming behind, wow. So I'll get out of the way, but as everyone should know, that the church, when we think about Black Mecca, and we think about the foundation, has always been the church. And so I've just had this amazing time as being now 24 years as being this bi-vote pastor, but also with the community college system to really be there in multiple ways. And although that's coming to an end on May 1 from Wake Tech, the work for the church will go on until way beyond for my life and for all of our lives because of the foundation of the church. If ever the church was needed, it's now. When you think about this pandemic that came in, and who would have thought, like Juniper Level on March 15th was our last service, that we could actually say that we worshiped in a sanctuary, but to know that there was still hope. Immediately for our church, strategically situated in Wake County, Wake County school system called on March the 5th, the 16th and said, we have a gap. I didn't realize, although I should have, the importance of the school lunch and what we found that thousands in our area would be without food. And so they had a gap, didn't have a place. So we became the first and only church for a while that opened our doors, and starting on March 17th, getting the call on March 16th, March 17th, we've opened the doors and fed from March 17th, Monday through Friday, all the way until the end of that program in August. And then we continued because we realized that there was such a disparity in our area that people need help. And church had to change the focus. Instead of having people to come, we have now, and maybe that's a lesson for the church, instead of waiting for those to come, we then now have to go to them. And so we've had to change our philosophy, how we think, how we're now on Zoom, YouTube, how we're doing virtual everything. We've had to change, but the church is so important because of the fact that now we're feeding with the Wake County Hub. For years, we've been there for the food bank, but now we're a hub location, a distribution site that now hundreds, every week, we're feeding at least 200 families every week. And it's to say there is hope. So hope then has to come in many different forms. Most people came into our sanctuaries and they got hope. Now hope is in a different format. It's in a different form. And that is to help someone that we don't even know. And the surprising part is that the vast majority who we serve are not our members. But we're reminded of a question: who is your neighbor? And when you think about Black Mecca, the most of us grew up, as I'm from Albany, Georgia, where whatever you needed, it was not to go to food line to Kroger's or the Public or the Lowe's. It was to go to next door. If you needed salt, if you needed eggs, whatever you needed, it went something like this: Mama sent me over here, I need something, and it was given. When we think about Black Mecca and we think about how the church, where most of us grew up in and had this foundation, because unfortunately, even in our Black cultures, suicide with this pandemic is on the rise. People are lost and they're concerned. And so for our church, we're having to deal with families, divorce rates. We're having to talk and be there for them. We're dealing with kids who traditionally had an outlet, but their outlet in Wake County pretty much has been those confines of their walls of their bedroom, if they have that. Homelessness rate is high in Wake County. And so we're reaching out weekly to try to provide a place for those. So in a sense, what is the church and how does the church impact? We are now working with our kids with this tutoring. Our tutoring has gone up. It's free, and we've had to go in and say that our parents, I'm a parent, but the way they teach today is totally different than I remember. And so our parents are struggling. So we've started training how to teach in this environment, tutoring. We've opened up a tutoring program specifically for those kids who have been virtual, because that's a whole different world. When you're now, instead of having that face-to-face, how do we help them when they've been on this computer all day? And then our tutoring has to be in that format also. So it's a challenge. We're having to think out of the box, but the church is the place that will help folks stay focused, give hope, because we will make it through this pandemic. And anytime there was any type of plague, our message from the church is that it's time for a breakthrough. And I'm so excited about 2021 and 2022, because after this pandemic, there's going to be an outpouring to the church like never before, because what we took for granted, coming in those sacred walls and now haven't been able to go in almost a year, when the doors of the church open again, I can only imagine what the saints of old used to say: what a time, what a time, what a time. And so I yield the floor. I end to say that we are the hope. And please remember, there is still hope, there is still joy, and there is somebody who says, if you lean on me, I will stick closer than a brother. This is not a sermon, but you know it. You did invite a preacher to come in and talk about the church and talk about what we believe and talk about why we still have joy. So I'll leave that alone and work on that for Sunday.
I'm gonna just have to tune in Sunday. All right, now that's my brother. That's my brother. Yes, and we thank you so much. We're going to move on into our next speaker, someone who holds high status in my life. I'm so glad to know him and count him as my big boss and my friend, Dr. Lawrence Rouse, and he will come and talk about the community college.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Garcia. I certainly appreciate it. Of course, you had to put me behind Brother Robinson. That's just unfair. But I'll do my best that I can do. And I know that the rest of the panelists will bring up the rest of it. So, but I want to talk a little bit about the community college, but I want to give some background on myself, because I know I've only been here in Pitt County, in Greenville, in Winterville for 2.5 years. Most of you have been here before, but as I tell everybody, I got here as fast as I could. So I want to say to you that I've landed in a good place. I've landed in a place where there is a community that accepts me, that accepts all of that we do. However, I know that there are workers out in this community, and I certainly appreciate all of you, and a lot of you are on this phone, on this meeting. So I come from South Carolina. You've heard that over and over again. And I want to say to you, as National Council of Negro Women, that my home was very close to the home of Mary McLeod Bethune. Actually, my church was probably less than 10 miles away from her birthplace, and my family held their reunion every year on the property that is now a park dedicated to her. So in growing up, I always knew about her, and just really proud that her legacy still goes on through this organization. And thank you for hosting this tonight. I didn't think that I got to North Carolina, I would again hear about Mary McLeod Bethune and the National Council of Negro Women. So looking back, I'm a product of the Black Mecca. My community that I grew up in was African American. We were on what they now call the South Side. Back in my day coming out, it was across the tracks. And I lived very close to the track. Every night my bed was rocked by the trains coming through. But I knew that as I grew up, there was a lot of different things going on because of racism, bias, and so forth, and economic oppression. So I always grew up thinking, you know, if there's something I can do for my community, what can I do? And so I went off to college, Voorhees College, which is a small HBCU. And I will tell you that HBCUs do so much of the work that we need within our communities, because they took me in and they molded me and showed me that what African-American men and women could do. They were really supportive, and we just grew under that. I grew under that. So my goal was to get an education, become a social worker, and come back to my community and help in any ways that I could. So you heard that I did graduate from Voorhees and came back to my community and worked for a community action agency in various roles. And then I discovered one agency in our community, and that was the community college. And my first exposure to them was with a group of African-American males who were in a program that was sort of experimental. They said, well, Rouse, we're going to hire you to counsel these young men and keep them in school so they can get their diplomas and get their certificate and go back out into the workforce. So as I did that, I saw a change in these young men. Not only did they get certificates and degrees and diplomas, but they became their own employers. Many of them went to work for companies and then later started their own businesses. And with these businesses, they hired other people from the community. So I was sold, and that was over 38 years ago. And throughout my life, I've been fortunate enough to move up through the ranks. And I tell everybody that community colleges are more like a mission. No one ever trains to go to work for a community college. Most of the time we end up there because we have a mission to help people. And at Pitt Community College, we say, and our motto is that we educate and we empower people for success. And so when I got there 2.5 years ago, I was delighted to be here. But as I discovered the power of Pitt Community College and what we do there, it just overwhelmed me. And we're continuing to develop those programs that we have available. So as I thought about this, I said, what can I tell them about Pitt Community College? Number one, we have excellent employees who work with us. And I don't say work for us, because we have Dr. Arnold, we have Mrs. Garcia, we have Dr. Patti Sanders-Smith as one of our board members. So I'm going to tell you, we can't help but be good. And we can't help but be tied back to the community. And as I think about Greenville, there are some hidden things that we know exist within Greenville. Number one, if you ride down Greenville Boulevard or any other parts of Greenville, you're going to say, bustling city, you read about we're number one for this and we're number one for that. But unfortunately, there's a part of Greenville that has a 24% poverty rate. And you say, well, what does that have to do with Pitt Community College? It's because we want to eradicate and reduce poverty in this county, in this city. And most of the folks that are in this situation happen to be people of color. So we're developing programs to do outreach recently, and Dr. Arnold is one of my co-chairs, what we call Achieving the Dream. And that program is all about building equity so that anyone who comes to our institution will get what they need to be successful. And we are in our second year of that. We're seeing some movement on it. The other things that we're doing, we're partnering with the DA to say, before you send somebody away, give them an opportunity to come to Pitt Community College and get an education so they won't be in this boat. And our DA has been working with us on that, and we're delighted. If you're in a detention center for Pitt Sheriff's Department, you can now enroll in courses while you're in the detention center and then come to us afterwards to complete whatever certificate you may have. But I wanted to also talk about those individuals who are in high school. I hope that you'll take this message back, and that is that we work with students while they're in high school so they can get college credit. And no matter if they're going to continue at Pitt Community College or if they're going to an HBCU, their credits will count with any public institution, those 16 institutions across North Carolina. And we're very proud of that. Matter of fact, I found out a recent study was done looking at graduates from 2019. So at that point, we had 25,000 students who transferred to senior institutions from the community colleges. And out of that 25,000, 3,000 went to HBCUs. And out of that 3,000, there were several colleges within 30 minutes of a HBCU. And those were the ones that mostly transferred. But I'm proud to say that Pitt is not within 30 minutes of an HBCU, but we were in that number of students who transferred, the highest numbers that students were transferring to HBCUs. And we know that if they get their 2-year degree, they've already proven themselves and will be great students no matter where they go, whether it's an HBCU or a PWI. So we're very proud of that. We also want the individuals to know that we have an early college high school on our campus where students can come and get their high school diploma as well as their associate degree. And certainly I think that's an advantage for any young person to come out of high school with an associate degree and then transfer hopefully onto a university or come to Pitt Community College. With that, we also are looking at a couple of things in the community. One that we have right now, we met earlier today, is a project called PCC Complete. We found that there are over 30,000 individuals in Pitt County who started some degree, whether it was at Pitt Community College or at a university or what have you, but they've not completed. We are reaching out to those individuals and saying, come to Pitt Community College and we'll help you complete that degree and help you to get to where you want to be. So with that, I just want to say that Pitt Community College and our middle name, and we always say this, it sounds kind of hokey, but our middle name is community, and we certainly want to make sure we reach out into the community. And that's our goal, that's our mission, to make sure that we serve everyone. And we know that right now the workforce is coming back even under the pandemic, but the jobs and the careers that are going to be needed are going to be those that require a certificate or a degree or diploma that is technical in nature. Here in Pitt County, we have over 500 pharmaceutical jobs that will be coming available in the next 3 years. We're looking at advanced manufacturing. So I would encourage you, as you know, young folks who are looking to maybe go directly into the workforce in good paying, clean jobs, to advise them to look at Pitt Community College as well. But I'll say that the HBCUs are also a Black Mecca, but we're quickly becoming a Black Mecca at Pitt Community College, and certainly appreciate everyone's support on that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rouse, for sharing that with us, and certainly we who work and matriculate at Pitt Community College are excited about you being here, and we appreciate all you're doing, and we got you. That's what you know. Okay. Next, we will have Dr. Patti Sanders-Smith come forward to share with us her reflections. Dr. Sanders-Smith.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Regina. And I tell you, the job gets harder and harder as each speaker goes before you. But the first thing I like to say is that I'm serving my second term as a member of the Board of Trustees at Pitt Community College. And since I have served in that role, one of the proudest moments or the best moment I feel that I've had on that board was when I had the opportunity to cast a vote to hire Dr. Lawrence Rouse. he has been an awesome leader. I think about during this pandemic, and as we hear about the spreads and how it's affecting the communities, have you heard anything about Pitt Community College? Have you heard any clusters? You have not. And that's because of Dr. Rouse and their vision. And I really am proud to be a part of the board and proud of his leadership. And I thank him for coming to Pitt County. In my role as a district administrator, you probably said, what is that? I'm kind of like a substitute principal. What I do, or a substitute administrator, what I do is I will go into a school. Pitt County's asking me to go into schools and fill in. If a principal goes on maternity leave, I go fill in. Or assistant principal, I'll fill in. We had a principal had mono, was out of work for 2 weeks. I went there. Unfortunately, we had someone to pass, and I filled in that position. So basically, what I do is I go around and like be a substitute principal, which has given me an opportunity to work in several schools in Pitt County. And I have worked with some awesome principals. I really, really have. In my former life, I've been in education, as Regina said, over 34 years. 25 of those years I did at the district level. And what this job has given me the opportunity to do is to get back in the trenches. When I was sitting at the central office, I used to send a directive out to a principal. And I would say, why did he do what I say? Or why did she do what I say? Now I know, because I'm in the building, I'm in the trenches. And just because I want that report by 12 o'clock, what happens if you have a catastrophe at your school? And I have seen it so much recently. If you realize that if a principal gets a call and has been notified that there has been a student that we have a case, that's what we call it. So we have a case of a student has tested positive or a teacher even. That principal has to stop what he or she is doing, has to call the central office, call the school nurse. And the first thing we have to do is quarantine that class, maybe that bus, or even the teacher. And we have to send those people home. We have had, just today, we had to send a second grade class home because a parent called and said that her son tested positive for COVID. Last week, we had to send 5 classes home because the speech teacher had COVID, and she has been to several different schools. So the pandemic has been really stressful on people, especially our minority families. Our African-American parents are trying to work. They, as I think Dr. Robinson mentioned, they have to worry about food insecurities because sometimes we are the only hot meal that children receive. And we are thankful to churches and other community agencies that have helped with food insecurities. Also, another issue is that everybody doesn't have access to technology. So schools have to provide hotspots for students. We have to make sure they have the technology needs they have. Schools shut down on March 8th. And the principals and the teachers were given 2 weeks to go from in-person, face-to-face learning to virtual learning. And to sit and watch those principals and those teachers sit there and struggle with how they're going to do this, how they're going to reach their kids. Right now, we check every week. We have some children. We've been in school. This is February, almost March. We have some children who have not checked in at all. They are being taught virtually. So what does that mean we have to do? We have to send a social worker. And mind you, we have one social worker and she has 3 to 4 schools. So we have a list of students who we have to go out and try to find. Administration goes out and try to find. Why are you not logging in? What's going on? And for some kids, school was a safe haven because sometimes you don't know what our children are dealing with. You're talking about suicide rate. You're talking about depression. I was home with my 2 granddaughters the first semester, and they have the best of the best, I would say, because we make sure that they are educated, they're fed, and they are clothes and they have the things that they need, but they were getting on each other's nerve. I mean, it affected them. They started withdrawing and they started not talking and talking about fight. I got to scream because I had to separate them because they were in the same room. But what we've done now is we decided, we tried it, we send them back to school. They go every other week because they need that socialization. And sometimes with public schools, we do more to educate children. We are nurses. We know when there are things going wrong at home. We make sure they're fed. And with us not being able to lay our eyes on them every day, we don't know what our children are suffering with. Teachers talked to me today about some kids that they said, you know, we've seen a big change in so-and-so. And that's because they weren't like this last year. They were happy, they were eager, they were ready to come back to school. And parents are afraid to send their students back to school because of the virus. And they're not sure, you know, when you get that call and say your child's been exposed, you have to go have them tested. And when they get that call, the first thing we have to do is go back. Then we have to do contact tracing. We got to find out who that child's been around. And then we have to tell them, well, you can't come back to school for 10 days. Or if you wait 5 days to go get tested and you're negative, you can come back to school. So think about how much time they're missing. The one good thing is that when they're out of school, they still can learn. And what we need our parents to do, we need our parents to communicate, and we need to develop relationships. And that's a big problem. And the biggest problem I think right now is public schools is that you don't see many people that look like us in the classroom anymore. And you definitely don't see them in administration. And you definitely don't see them on school boards. And these are people that we need to have to be there to advocate for our children. I'm not saying that just if you don't look like me, you can't advocate for me, but you have to walk sometimes in my shoes to understand what I'm dealing with. And we know that being an educator, and all of you are educated, is not the most lucrative business, but it's a calling. And this pandemic has brought out the best in our teachers. And they come to work, they put on their masks, they put on their rubber gloves, and they're doing things that they've never done before. When kids come to school now, they come in the building, they get their temperatures taken, they get their breakfast. And guess what? They don't come out of that classroom again. They go get their lunch, they go back, and they don't come out again to the end of the day. They're in their classroom all day long. And believe me, you can ask any educator, we want children to come back to school. We want them to come back to school, but we want them to come back safe. We want our teachers to be safe. And we need to thank our custodians. They are constantly cleaning and sanitizing classrooms. Teachers are cleaning and sanitizing classrooms. So what I can say to our parents, what things we need to do, we need to communicate. We need to make sure that our parents are on top of their children. We talked with a parent today. The parent has 4 children at home. They work all day long, and they have to come home after work to make sure their children have done their homework. They have only one device, and that's a struggle. So I think one thing that the pandemic has taught, I have a lot of friends who are not educators, and they have said to me that when school opens, when that teacher sends home that wish list, I'm buying everything up there she wants. Because they realize now that the job that teachers have to do with what they have to do, it's a demanding. And they really realize now how they miss it. The best thing I could tell parents, what we need more parents to do is we need parents to get involved in their children's lives. We need parents to come. If you don't, you need to check your child's report card. We had parents that come and say, well, I didn't know my child got a report card. And this is February. And I know the educators up here, I see you nodding because they had those conversations. And we got to get our parents more engaged. Our parents don't join the PTA. They need to join the PTA. They need to join booster clubs. The principal needs to know who they are. And one thing they need to do is when they come into the building to talk to someone, first of all, I would not talk to anybody that comes to see me with a bonnet on or bedroom shoes. If they come to school dressed like that, I said, ma'am, you need to go home and get yourself together, and then we'll talk. We need to have respect for ourselves and respect for our children. And we don't need to come in fussing and raising Cain like we can do. We need to come in calm and talk about what our children need. if we could just get more parental involvement and ask for help when you need it, because the schools can't help you if they don't know what you need. So, I can go on all day long, because people ask me, why do I do what I do after I retire? Because education is important to me, and it's important to our community. Because if we don't have educated people out here working, we won't continue to get our Social Security. That's one thing, if it's going to be around. But we want our community to flourish, and we want to go back to being that Black Mecca that we talked about. I think about the times when grew up in Cornerstone Missionary Baptist Church on Railroad Street, and the kinds of things that we learned there. And that was a family. And there's a disconnect today. And we really need to get connected once again. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed the conversation, hearing what everyone else had to say.
Thank you so much. I remember Cornerstone Missionary Baptist Church too on Railroad Street, when everybody was your mama and your auntie, and it was indeed family. And so we thank you so much for your insight in that area. Last but certainly not least, we have someone who is probably new to many of us, but we are so excited to have Dr. Kaye Thompson Rogers to come forward. I was so tickled when she said she would come. I was just so excited. She works for North Carolina Central University, of course, and she is the one that makes sure that all those golden eagles get to fly. That's what I learned from her daughter, and as my mama is a golden eagle, I appreciate that. So Dr. Rogers, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Garcia, for the invite, and thank the National Council of Negro Women Greenville section. Also, I'm glad to be here on this panel to talk with you all about North Carolina Central University and what we are doing for our Black students and our Black families. We all understand the historical Black college and universities and how they were established to provide post-secondary education for Blacks before Blacks could attend PWIs, predominantly white institutions. As a result, HBCUs have become the principal means for providing that education. As we celebrate Black History Month, we all know HBCU is Black history from first day of the year to the last day of the year. These institutions are known for their nurturing students and providing students with that family feel. These institutions are meeting those academic needs of those students where they are. We have students that come there, and we make sure that they get what they need before they leave. HBCUs are like extended family. When mentoring plays a large part in the student's success, we have a lot of mentoring for our students. Students are doing great things as they develop a love for their HBCU. It's always something at an HBCU to get involved in, such as a sorority, fraternity, student government, band. It's always something that a student can get involved in. But what about Chicken Wednesdays? If you went to HBCU, you know about Chicken Wednesdays. At NCCU, on Chicken Wednesdays, the cafeteria turns into a runway where the ladies show off the latest fashions and compete to see who is the best dressed. Homecoming is like a family reunion. Alumni come back to pay homage to their alma mater. Students are prepared at NCCU academically, professionally, and personally to embrace and commit to becoming informed and engaged citizens. As I serve as director of the Health Professions Career Center, my mission is to provide students that want to go in the health profession to make sure they are competitive applicants when they apply to professional and graduate programs. So this is one of our initiatives. The National Academy of Medicine and the Association of American Medical Colleges and other organizations are really discussing the shortage of Black doctors. And it's a necessity for us to make sure that we reduce that racial gap. Research shows that there's greater trust in a doctor if the doctor looks like you. So Blacks make up about 13% of the United States population, and only 6% of Blacks are in medical schools. There were fewer Blacks in medical school in 2014 than it was in 1978. Research is saying that in the next 15 years, the challenge of the shortage of doctors will not reflect the nation's diversity. The AAMC project that the nation will have a shortage of 139,000 doctors as the retirement age of Americans by 45% by the year 2033. So what is North Carolina Central University doing to assist with this shortage? We have pathway programs, pipeline programs, and we have articulation agreements and memorandums of understandings with other universities. One of our articulation agreements that we are very proud that we have is with Boston School of Medicine. This program is offered to students that come to North Carolina Central University. The student can apply to the early medical school selection program. This program provides the student that opportunity. If they are accepted to this program, they will go to Boston in the summer before their junior year or the summer after their junior year. And on the senior year, the student will spend the year in Boston, taking the majority of the first year medical courses. If the student is successful in Boston, maintain the GPA and the MCAS score, they will return to North Carolina Central University, graduate with their Bachelor's of Science degree, and automatically return back to Boston and start their medical school program. These students, the eligibility is not that hard. They have to have a 3.0 and to have all the sciences that prerequisites that are required. We've had a lot of students to go through this program that went through Boston and got their MD, and some also got their PhD. I received a letter today. Students are required to apply by January 31st. I got a letter today from one of the candidates that applied, and she has an interview. And I'm real excited about that because one year we had 6 students to be interviewed and they accepted all 6 of them. So NCC is doing a lot to make sure that we assist with the shortage of Black doctors. Currently, I am collaborating with Howard University School of Pharmacy. We did have an articulation agree with them years ago, and we're in the process of reactivating that. So the student would come to North Carolina Central University and major in pharmacy. That fourth year, they will go to Howard University and finish that year and transfer back to NCCU and get their PharmD degree, and then go back to Howard and complete the program and receive their pharmacy degree. And also we are collaborating with Morehouse School of Medicine on our articulation agreement. So we are increasing opportunities for our students through these pipelines and pathways, because we have students that will be at NCCU for 4 years and get 4.0 for the entire 4 years, apply to 25 or 30 medical schools and not get one interview. So we are working real hard to help with this shortage. And I hope that you all will tell some of your young people that they do not have to hope to get in medical school. They can go to this program, and it's left up to them to stay in the program and complete their MD. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Rogers, for that information and for holding up the banner for our young people as they prepare to come into the institution. And certainly this is information that I'm sure many of us will share with those students that are graduating and trying to go to college and whatnot. We appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. I got a child that's coming that way in the fall, and so I want you to have your eye on him. Have your eye on him. All right. And so now we're at the point in the program in which we will take some questions from our audience here. And we have a diverse audience here. We have some people, of course, who are from NCNW and from the Franklin Assembly, but we also have people from the community as well. And so we are excited about that. Dr. Arnold, Dr. Katrina Arnold is going to, our facilitator, our chat facilitator. Dr. Arnold, do we have any questions available yet?
Okay, so we do have a few questions. The first question to all of the panelists, what are some of the collaborations, and I know some of you probably already touched on this a little bit, what are some of the collaborations that you have or that you would like to have that you feel that would greatly enhance your institution's Meccas status?
Okay, I'll attempt to start off on this one. I think probably one of the most important that we would pursue at Pitt Community College is to connect with our Black churches that are in the community and try to, again, reach out into the greater community that's out there. So if we could develop more partnerships with the churches, and I know there are a lot of vibrant churches here in Pitt County, and I think that's going to probably be our next goal, to reach out to them so we can get some word out about program services that we also offer. If I had to think of one partnership, that would be it.
And I would like to say one thing that I would like for us to do is to partner as with the public schools, is to again partner with Pitt Community College and to let our students, especially our minority students, know of the opportunities that they can, while they're still in high school, take classes at the community college, because many of them, for whatever reason, don't pursue that. The early college is another partnership between the public schools and Pitt Community College. And we always try to get into our black churches to invite them to be part of our programs, to sit on our school improvement teams. Many of them are food distribution centers for us. But I think the most important thing right now we could do is to educate our children and let them know that you don't have to take the easy road. You have to work hard in high school. And if you take some of these classes at Pitt Community College, you're only helping yourself. So I would like to see that partnership strengthen even more than it already is.
Okay, one thing that I would like to see happen at NCCU is, you know, we have a lot of alumni, but we know that Black people don't give back. We could provide more scholarships to our students if people would give back. And that is one thing that is really hard for HBCUs. When you see the statistics, you know, they are very embarrassing because people should give back. You know, you might get mad and leave because of some technicality, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't be where you are if it wasn't for that HBCU.
And lastly, for me as the church, I think I echo the same and say ditto with Dr. Rouse, but also with all is to connect that pipeline early on and get our youth in the church connected with a community college that will then lead to a 4-year and then beyond. And I think that has to happen earlier. When I'm saying earlier, get the dream rolling at 6th or 7th grade so that we can have them an avenue early on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all so much. Next question. What can we do to aid you in your position and job as institution leaders in Mecca institutions? What is your wish list? So what can we do to help you?
Pray. Pray for the church, especially. We've seen unbelievable times as Central talks about, even that giving. If you've seen that at a HBCU and seeing that coming in, imagine what the church is going through, where people who traditionally would be there every Sunday who are not coming at all. So churches are seeing 30 to 45% reduction in tithes and offering and still having to do the things that we've talked about doing. So definitely prayer.
And I think we need, in the public school system, we need people to run for the Board of Education. We need you to join your PTAs. I know you don't want to do another Zoom meeting, but we need to see your presence. We need to see your faces in the place, because you'll be surprised how differently children can be treated when they see people walking up and down the hall. Well, right now you can't walk up and down the halls, but you can be in the Zoom meeting. But we do need your presence. That's what we need.
So in looking at Pitt Community College, of course, we always have advisory committees. And actually we have one currently is Community Diversity Committee that we meet quite frequently. And that's our way of getting some input from the greater community. But I'd like to say to everyone that, you know, if you see something that we could be doing for the community, reach out, let us know. I have recently put together a strategic initiative department, and we have placed some resources there just as of Monday that is to really work closer with our community, whether it's providing courses that are at various centers, but also just to say, what are the ideas? What are strategic initiatives that Pitt Community College can now do, and let's manage those. So we're open for any suggestions that you might have. And again, back to my statement, we're here to serve our community, and we want to serve all of our community. So I would just say, if you have any input that you can give us, we certainly would certainly take that. And I think most of you probably know Mr. Ernest Lee. He's part of that division, and also Dr. Christian Braswell is also part of it. So so any of those would be able to take those suggestions.
Well, I would like to see that HBCUs get more presence in our churches, because that's where, back in the day, that's how a lot of young people heard about HBCUs. And so I make sure that if we have any types of scholarships, any types of fellowships, make sure that we get them out to the churches in our communities. Because when my daughter applied for scholarships the year that she graduated from high school, it's called the Roxborough Union Scholarship. And that's where Blacks put in money for these scholarships. They ended up giving some of the scholarships to white students because the Black students did not apply. And so with these scholarships out here, we need to work with our students, help them with these applications. Because when my daughter, she got so many scholarships, they told her to stand at the front, because every time, they were calling her name, because she did work hard and she applied for those scholarships. And now, today, students are not putting forth that effort. So we, as community leaders and workers, we have to work with these students to help them. Also, I work with parents filling out financial aid, because if you haven't been educated, it's difficult. We have a lot of first generation college students that don't know, and their parents don't know. So we have to offer assistance to these people in our communities. And that's what I've always done. And it works. It really works when you help people. Some kids don't think they can go to college because they're at the poverty level. We need to let them know there is always a way to go to college. Because with the community college, Dr. Rouse, I know that kids get their 2-year degree there, they transfer to NCCU, and they give them a scholarship when they do that. So we've been what they call Eagle Connect. Students that want to go to NCCU, they might not have the GPA or the SAT score. They are in the Eagle Connect program, where they live on our campus, they eat on our campus, do everything on our campus except classes. They go to Durham Tech and take their classes. And once they finish that associate degree, then they return to NCCU. So that's another program. So where there's a will, there's a way. Anybody that want to go to college can go. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Another question has come in, and feel free, anyone that has a question, you can put that in the chat. So this is for Dr. Rouse, Dr. Robinson, Dr. Sanders-Smith. As members of D9 organizations, could you please elaborate the function of D9 institutions in the Black community and with Black families? What are some of the programs that your organization implements to help our families?
Well, for Delta Sigma Theta sorority, one of our signature programs is Delta Academy and Delta Gyms. And primarily what that program entails is that we work with middle school age girls in Delta Academy and high school girls at Delta Gyms. And we have a curriculum that we follow, and we expose them to social, educational opportunities. We talk about finances. With Delta Gyms, we work with them, preparing them for college, helping them understand what they need to do. Many of the things that schools used to do, we try to implement in this program. That's one of our major projects that we do. We also work with the Center for Domestic Violence. We provide support for that organization as well. As you know, Delta Sigma Theta, like other Divine Nines, are public service organizations. And when we see a need in our community, this is what we do. This past year, we partnered with the West Greenville Health Council and shared information in the Pitt County area about COVID-19, because we have a lot of people who are out there who are afraid of the vaccine. So we would go out and share information with them and tell them how they could go about getting the vaccine, and also letting them know that it's safe to take the vaccine. And those are just some of the few things that we do. But our main purpose is we survey our community, and wherever there is a need, we try to go out and support that community with that need. One other thing that we do is we do participate in an HBCU college fair. And again, we know that HBCUs sometimes don't get the recognition that they need. So we partner with the HBCU Coalition and have an annual college fair where we bring HBCUs to Pitt County area, invite area students in grades 6 through 12, and give them the opportunity to meet one-on-one with HBCU recruiters and talk about their special programming and the opportunities they have there. That's just a few of the things we do.
Obviously, I yield the floor to our Southeast Regional Director, Dr. Rouse, who knows all of the things that Phi Beta Sigma. Obviously, today we have two of us on tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Robinson. And I was thinking as Dr. Sanders-Smith was talking, but I want to say that what we're looking at is D9 organizations pulling together. And I know we have some friendly rivalries and so forth, but it's serious, particularly in the time of COVID. I've seen organizations come together for a few different events within the community, such as COVID relief, just making sure that those families that are suffering right now, that we do all we can to assist them. Within the Southeastern region for Phi Beta Sigma, we started a drive last year, and we were able to raise a little over $14,000 to help families who may need some sort of assistance within the 3 state areas of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Eastern Tennessee. One of the other programs that we're very proud of that began in the 1950s was the Sigma Beta Club, which we take young African-American males and sometimes non-minority males as well. But we have a program that we put them through that's called Rise and Thunder, which we teach them a lot of the survival mechanisms as you navigate society. But we also watch and help them to develop academic skills. We do tutoring with them. Just recently, we had our Founders Day program back in January. And one of the most amazing things that happened there is we had a young man, Sigma Beta Club member in South Carolina, who spoke to Victor Glover, who's also a member of Phi Beta Sigma, who's now at the space station. And for him to speak from South Carolina to the space station in real time, along with 3 other young Sigma Betas, was amazing. I think it was just something that really blew my mind. And I'm a nerd when it comes to space travel and so forth. So, but you know, that's one of the things that we do is really encouraging these young folks to look beyond their circumstances currently, but, you know, look at what you can be. We also work with voter education, voter registration, and I'm sure all the other D9s did the same thing because this was such an important election, and I'm delighted to see that we have a D9 in the White House as well. So we all pulled together on that. We're just delighted. I know Garcia is jumping up and down there. But there are just so many things that D9s do, and I think sometimes they're just not recognized, but we're out here in the community. We're working with our collegiates to make sure that they are successful no matter where they are, if they're at NC Central or if at A&T or at Winston-Salem State. We're giving them that support that we can, particularly during this COVID-19. This is a hard time for college students. They're not having that college experience at universities, even at the community college, that they normally would have a meeting with their peers and doing the, you know, young folks like to socialize and they're just not doing that. So how can we support them? How can we look at the mental health? So we have done that, and we've also supported the spiritual side. Since this pandemic start, our fraternity has done what we call a brotherhood call-in prayer call every Sunday at 3:14 every Sunday, and certainly trying to support that spiritual side. We also have health seminars. We have a brother that graduated from UNC Chapel. No, I'm sorry, he teaches at UNC Chapel Hill in the medical school. And last week we had one to talk about COVID and why you should get the vaccination. So there are so many things that we're doing to try to give back and to encourage people. And even down to small businesses. We have the Billboard Jackson contest, which we give two $20,000 awards to those who win that to support their small businesses. So, and I'm sure that other D9s are doing very similar things. And the thing about D9s is that once we graduate from college, we don't walk away from our organization. It's a lifelong commitment. And certainly, I think that bodes well for the future of our D9s.
Okay, and Sister Garcia, we did have another question to come through regarding helping our students find scholarships and helping them fill out scholarships and going to college, and how involved you think our churches should be. I don't know if we have time to answer that one. I know we're getting close and we want to turn it over to Madam President. But Ms. McLean also followed up in the chat and mentioned that Alfred Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia hosts an annual HBCU college fair. Churches here in NC could do the same. And so I think that was a good follow-up to that question. And I think we probably can continue that conversation. I don't know if we can do it on social media or somewhere else, but we may be able to continue that conversation and just share ideas regarding, you know, how the church can assist students in completing those scholarships.
I will say, I just want to say, just to kind of follow up with that, because I did see that come through, and thank you, Sister Margie. It's good to see you here. And I will speak to that just a little bit, because I know we have someone here who is she is the queen of the college fair, Patti Sanders-Smith, and that college fair is held every year. It has been in a church, and it also has been at the community college. And this year, I think it was virtual. Was it not?
That's
right.
Correct.
And so we are doing some things here down here in Eastern North Carolina too. But I thank you for bringing that up, because certainly more can, you know, it can go bigger. You know, it can cut. You know, there can be people in other places around. And, you know, when you think about North Carolina, you know, Eastern North Carolina and the other part of North Carolina, they're almost like two separate states. And so, I mean, we always have a need to do a little bit more, because in our separate state, there tend to be more disparities, and there tends to be the issues with poverty and whatnot. And so we thank you for bringing that up. And certainly NCNW, GPCAS-NCNW is looking forward to doing some collaborations, maybe along those lines that will help to, make that an even greater endeavor. And we are, as Dr. Arnold said earlier, coming towards the end of our time together. I just want to take this time to say thank you so much to all of our panelists, Reverend Dr. Robinson, Dr. Sanders-Smith, Dr. Lawrence Rouse, and Dr. Kaye Thompson Rogers for being here, for enlightening us, for being, considering it not robbery to just share of yourself. I really felt a lot sitting back here just looking at you. And right now, just like my picture says, I'm on top of the world. And just so happy you could come. I would also like to thank the committee because our education committee did sponsor our activities for this month. And so Sharetta Walls, Cherie White, let's start calling names, Dr. Rhea Miles and Dr. Katrina Arnold, they all came together and we have a Facebook page, a Facebook event page out there. We've just been celebrating Black family. And so I just want to say thank you to you, thank you to them. And I'm going to turn over these closing remarks to our president, I'm speaking those things as if
just speak it. You got
President Mia Ely. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Garcia. Thank you so much. I am full right now. I want to thank this wonderful panel, Dr. Rouse, Dr. Thompson Rogers, Dr. Sanders-Smith, and to Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Robinson. We thank you all for sharing with us on this evening, for enlightening us on tonight. And it is our mission here within NCNW to lead and empower and to educate and to advocate for women of African descent and their families and their communities. And I feel after tonight that we as an organization and as a section are better in doing so, because you have invested your time and you have imparted your wisdom and poured into us on tonight. And for that, we are eternally grateful and we say thank you. And now it's up to us, since we've been challenged on tonight with this information, it's up to us to do something good with the information that we've received on this evening. And it first starts with knowledge and then gaining access to the things that we've learned. So we thank all of you, all of our panelists, for making us more knowledgeable so that we can work on providing better and more resources and more opportunities for our Black families and our students and our Black communities. And I know everyone on this Zoom call on tonight joins me in giving a resounding thank you to our section's education committee, to Sisters Regina Garcia, to Dr. Katrina Arnold, Sister Cherie White, Sister Sharetta Walls, and Dr. Rhea Miles for leading us on this evening and all month long as we have celebrated our Black History Month virtually and through all of our activities this month as we culminate it. And I just want to thank all of you ladies for your hard work and for pulling this program together on tonight. I know that I am changed because of it. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank our section members. I see some of our newest members. I don't want to get in trouble and start calling names because I don't want to miss anyone, but I see some of our newest members and guests and family and friends from New York and Myrtle Beach. And also want to acknowledge again our state coalition, our NCNW state coalition president, Madam President Queen DeGraffenreid. She's on the Zoom call with us on tonight. Thank you, Madam President, for joining us. And we just thank all of you.
And I have a couple of comments.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
When you
finish, go ahead and finish.
Yes, yes, ma'am. But I don't have much more to say other than
go ahead.
That that I just appreciate everyone for participating in the discussion on Black Meccas and how we can strengthen our people. You know, this program wouldn't be a success if you all hadn't participated in it. So I appreciate that. And Madam President, if you want to go ahead and give some remarks, you're more than welcome to. I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. You were doing a good job, but I just wanted to let the group know how much I appreciate this initiative, this program. Mine. I was an Upward Bound director for about 20 years. So I have a lot of affinity for our youth. I know that you can get a low-income youth, the youth from the housing project anywhere, and they can succeed. And I think I heard Dr. Sanders-Smith saying that. Sometimes you have to start working with them earlier. I heard all of the things. I said, there ought to be just one big old Upward Bound program. But what I wanted to do, I appreciate the Greenville Pitt area section. In 4 or 5 years, y'all have just done marvelous work. And I tell your president all the time, I said, there's a lot of leadership in that Greenville Pitt area, a lot of leadership up there. And for those of you who don't know where I am, I'm in Fayetteville. Interesting that we've just initiated statewide our internship and scholarship resources guide. So that Upward Bound is still with me. Sometimes people just don't have information. Our low-income youth parents sometimes don't have the time or don't know where to connect to get information. That becomes our responsibility. But we are going to continue this internship resource guide statewide, so that our youth will know where opportunities are. You will know. And again, during my years as an Upward Bound director, one thing I learned about internships is somebody give you an internship a couple of years, you don't have to look for a job because they've already trained their employee. And that's an investment on their part. They aren't crazy, they ain't all that giving. You know, it's a tax write-off on the one hand and it's an investment on the other. What better than to train your own employee 2 or 3 years? You got a commitment and you got a good employee. So I've learned that along the way, but scholarships, there are just so many scholarships out there. It's just trying to connect the scholarship with the youth to give so that they can have access. I do appreciate what you said about the church. Here, the United Methodist Men hold this, I guess it's a college fair, a training fair, but they hold it at the parks and recreation center, where they know they're going to get the young Black men if they go to the recreation center. They may not get them if they go to the church, but they know they're going to go there, and it works beautifully. They get the sororities and fraternities to come in and help them do their applications and do those essays. Our young Black men run from essays, and it works out. So I appreciate what I've heard. I'm a Zoom hopper. I go from one Zoom to the next, so I didn't hear all of it, but I heard enough to know what I think possibly was said. And I do like what I hear in terms of folk working together, and we can do the same model statewide. I want to thank again your dynamic president. I've known all of your presidents and your founder, who I see on, and I've worked with you over the years. So let's do it together. Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
God bless you, President Queen. Thank you so much for joining us on this evening.
You're welcome.
And Sister Garcia, I will turn it back over to you. I just want to thank everyone again. God bless you. I don't want to drop any names, but I see you. Just know that I see you, and we appreciate you joining us on tonight. So thank you. God bless you.
God bless you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Panelists, I'll be talking to you. Check your email.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Tech committee, can we stay after? Just a minute. Technology committee, you will stay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. I think, Cherie, I think you're gonna have to like turn. Maybe I have to take the host duties back so I can. I don't know how it works with the recording, so I can save it on the computer. I think it was it already recording.